Alrighty, gang. Here's to nights that turn into mornings and friends that turn into family. Cheers!
Happy birthday to you!
Hello, and welcome to the Friendship IRL podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra. My friends, they would tell you I like to ask the hard questions. You know who I am in the group. I'm the person that's saying, okay, I'm going to ask this question, but don't feel like you have to answer it. And now I can be that friend for you too. Today's episode is with my new friend, Alex Friedman, the founder of Connection Feast. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me post about Connection Feast. It's a series of events in the Seattle area. They also have virtual events. And Alex and I connected a little less than a year ago because we realized we both live in Seattle. And we have built this great friendship ever since. Now, I'm sure I will ask Alex to be back on the podcast a few times. And in fact, there is a part 2 to this episode that will air in a few weeks. But this is a fun one because Alex also talks about community and friendship on the internet. Her and I have talked extensively. So there's not a lot of need for me to cut in today. This conversation just unfolds beautifully. And you know, so often I go into these episodes and I have a rough idea of what this episode, like what I want to cover, but I try not to control it too much because letting it just take its natural path is where the best things come out. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. I was thinking today, after we just did this dance party in my living room where we looked, well, like our truest selves, that I don't even know if it's been a year. I think like less than a year ago, we didn't know each other.
Yeah. That's crazy. We just had an intense sweaty dance party in your kitchen.
I know. We moved my furniture around so you'd have more space to record.
Yeah. And then we actually moved it around so we could have an intense dance party. It was my whole plan all along.
Is that how you like to start every podcast, with a dance party?
Well, actually, I like to start a dance party before a meeting of any sort, but especially with a friend, if I know it's kind of like I feel comfortable enough to be able to shake it out with them versus by myself.
I mean, it sets the energy. It also gets you on the same energy.
Oh, that's true.
Not that you have to be on the same energy, but I definitely brought me up, that's for sure.
It was Whitney. Whitney Houston brought us up.
That was a great choice by Alexa. So I want to talk about how we met. And I guess the backstory to that is that you actually create content, events, programming around community and friendship, that you run a program. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Connection Feast?
Absolutely. Okay, so let me just give you a little background for those beautiful fans of yours. Go back to pre-pandemic time. We're talking, it's about May of 2018. And I'm sitting in this high-rise apartment in downtown Seattle overlooking the lake. It's raining. It's gray. I grew up in the city, but I just moved back and I was feeling super lonely. I had a breakup. You know, I had felt really kind of alone, didn't really feel like I wanted to be in the same life I had when I left when I was 18 years prior. And I felt really alone. So I tried all these meetups. I tried meeting people at work. I tried kind of just reaching out to people and doing connection, but I just wasn't feeling fulfilled in the connections that I was creating. They weren't deep enough. I felt really isolated, both within myself, but also within this city that I was redefining myself in. And I kind of was like allowing myself to sit in my own sad little rainy story. And I was kind of sick of sitting in that. And so I said, I'm going to have some dinner parties and I'm going to have a theme around them. And this is going to push me to invite people to an event so that I can kind of bring people into my life and create some intentionality and deep conversation. And it will open the door for me to take potential friendships to a different level by giving them something that they can come to.
Yeah.
So I started launching these dinner parties and giving a theme to them. And I would meet people in super random places. I'm not kidding. That uncomfortable lady that you're stuck in an elevator with, that was me. The woman at the gym, the person at crosswalks. I was literally reaching out to anybody that I just felt this intuitive little hit. And I would talk to them. And if I felt comfortable, I'd ask them if they wanted to come to my dinner party, connection feast.
So fun.
And they said yes. Sometimes they said no. Sometimes they said yes, and they didn't respond to my texts. But I didn't care. It pushed me to get outside of my comfort zone to launch these dinner parties once a month, all around a theme. I hosted them on the top part of my apartment complex every month. I did it for over a year, and I would have different people come to every feast. The opportunity that opened up for me was an immense, beautiful experience because the first feast, the first dinner party, I had a theme, and it was fear.
The first one?
The first one.
Wow.
I was so scared, Alex, that I didn't even facilitate. I just said, here's the theme. And then I didn't do anything else. It started as a dinner party as a way for me, because of my own deep need of really wanting more connection in Seattle. I want to take you back there with me because I want people to see that, first of all, Connection Feast is a really beautiful and large community now of people who like to have deep, meaningful connection. But it came from a place of me wanting to create that for myself. It came from a place of me experiencing that need myself at 36 years old. It came from a place of me not only really feeling like this was something I needed, but I could tell that other people needed it too, because people kept coming back. People wanted more. People wanted to continue connecting. So in this beautiful year of 2020, February 2020, we launched our first ticketed event, Connection Feast. And we've been hosting online and in-person events and experiences ever since. And what Connection Feast is, in summary now, it's not just dinner parties. They're opportunities or experiences for people to connect with like-minded people who enjoy deeper, more meaningful conversations and interactions. It allows people to connect deeply with themselves and then also with other people, and then potentially create a deep connection so much that they're able to take those friendships outside of a feast. And that's what we've created, an opportunity for people to connect deeper and more intentionally.
I have so many thoughts about what you do and Connection Feast. Number one, so many people want to join or find friends and community, but you can build or create. And that is exactly what you decided to do. You decided to take the loneliness you were feeling into your own hands, put yourself out there, take risks. I mean, you just said the first one was themed after fear, and you were so scared that was it. Just like the theme is fear, we're here together, the end. But second, I've had the opportunity to attend a Connection Feast, and you're so right. As a participant, it is a place to get to know people deeper and make connections outside of Connection Feast. I also think a lot about, wanting to make friends is scary, as we've already covered, and putting yourself out there. And if you go to an event and your only goal, the only reason you were there was to meet a friend and you didn't do that, you feel like you failed. But if you go to an event where there's something else that you would come home with, if you went to an adult soccer league because you love soccer, even if you didn't meet anybody you knew, you'd come home. And when I came home from your event from Connection Feast. What I had to say was, no matter whether you meet somebody or not, you're going home with something. Like, these are deep events. The one I went to was on emotional intelligence, and I came home thinking like, whoa, I have maybe 10 new things to consider about myself. And therefore, whether or not, like, people are meeting people are making connections, but I think it's less scary to put yourself out there when there's other positive things happening at the same time. And your entire enjoyment of the event isn't predicated on whether or not you actually made a connection or not.
Yeah. And I think that even though we started as a dinner party and this like potluck, I think we have learned so much by putting on close to like 200, events now, that it's really about coming in with intentionality, knowing that you want to connect deeper first with yourselves and then with other people. Because it was funny that the first feast, I was too scared to have any programming. The topic, like I said, was fear. I was too scared to like ask people for help. I was too scared to like make it seem too rigid. And the more I did these events, the more I realized people actually want to learn. They want to participate. They want to feel guided. They want to feel like they can come away feeling like very fulfilled and that it actually flowed really nicely. And in order to do that, that actually takes planning on our part so that someone can come in and feel like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to walk away with after a feast, but I do know that I'll walk away feeling a deeper, more introspective opportunity with myself in the company of other people. And that by proxy does create a deeper potential relationship, period. Relationship with first yourself, then with the people you connected with. And then where are you going to take that out into the world, into life with other friendships or relationships?
It's so hard for adults to play. And play, I think, is how we make a lot of friends, especially as kids, like when we're younger. I mean, when I think of Connection Feast, like, you're kind of creating a structured play in the sense of people go, and this is important personal development work, but because you're doing it in a room with other people, because it has fun names like your courses, it feels just like mildly silly enough to feel like you're doing something outside your comfort zone with the people around you, and opens you up to actually getting to know everybody in the room.
I love that you said that. I think people who know me know that I'm a very playful person. Naturally, that is who I am. And yes, I love deep conversation, but the playfulness part is such a big part of who I am. And the interesting thing is, with that concept of play, allows us to shoo away the perfectionism that easily overtakes our minds and easily overtakes mine, not only with the planning of an event, but with new friendships, with delving into anything that I feel scared about. I want it to potentially be perfect. That's always the initial reaction, to be able to control it, because I think I'll get that through perfectionism. But the playfulness part allows me to shake that out, literally shake it out. And the cool part about adding a playfulness, not only to the naming, like you said, things are named courses, we have connectivities, and then just the actual activities themselves. We can look at it like a classic learning experience with a twist of fun, because it doesn't feel like, you're actually learning in the sense of old school learning. You're learning in a playful way with other people, so that you're actually learning through your body and through other people's experiences and through stories and through just fun games. And we're saying, let's just take the W word out, which in Connection Feast is often a word we don't love, which is work, which isn't meaning we don't talk about it. It just means the concept of work, the go-to question of work, and feeling like something is work. Let's have play, and let's make play an opportunity for us to really engage our senses, which we all have, and our culture and the demands on life easily shake that out of us. And it's actually a really beautiful way to expand and connect deeper.
I think so much about how, as adults, I feel like such a marker of friendship is like emotional intimacy, vulnerability, what we share. We share like our deepest parts of ourselves. And if you step back, the way we get to that point is just by being together, by doing life together, shared interests, activities. And then over time, you like open up and start sharing the deep stuff. And in Connection Feast, people are coming in sharing the deep stuff, but because you've added this element of playfulness to it, then it feels like that shared experience. Like, this is kind of silly that we're sitting here talking. Haha, I feel uncomfortable. And they remember that a little bit more than that they shared their deepest truths. And I mean, not that everybody's always sharing their deepest truths, but if you're in a meeting about fear, people might be sharing stuff that they would normally feel is like too much to share right away. And I think it's because you've created this experience that they can like hook it onto.
Yeah. I think if we also take a step here and look at these events and experiences as actually, I don't call them that myself when I'm thinking about this. This is social art. I look at Connection Feast as social art. It's an experiential opportunity for people to come in and experience connection with themselves and other people in a playful and unique artistic way. That means, as an artist myself, it gives me a lot of free range here to really create opportunities where people can connect in a way that maybe they've never done before. And it feels maybe like that they'll come in one way and they leave another. And that can be literally come in one door and leave another and not even realize it. But the truth is, when you come to Connection Feast, you're guiding through. It's almost like you're on this like wave going through, and it's playful and you're being carried, and there's the fun and elements about it. And then you leave in a different zone. And in order to do that, the art has to be a creation together. It's a co-creation. And so the content that we provide for people to connect can only do so much. The art of it really is the dynamics of the people that come. The seriousness, quote unquote, of the topics really to most people don't matter. It's really that they come because they feel like they're going to be like riding this wave of kind of like a unique, fun experience. And they know that they'll leave feeling like, wow, that was really kind of fun way to connect. I didn't even know that was possible. And so if we looked at connecting as an art, that art also doesn't have too many rules. I mean, there's creativity within boundaries. We give you the boundaries and you can play within those boundaries. And that is definitely, I think, not only as a creative and artist myself, but somebody who manages like ADHD, boundaries for me are key. And the more boundaries I create in a fun way, then the easier it is for me to feel like I can fly between those boundaries and actually really be myself and allow myself to really feel seen and then allow myself to feel protected at the same time.
So, do you think you apply these social art principles then in your own friendships outside of Connection Feast? Because doing this work, does it infiltrate, I would assume, your everyday friendships outside of your work socializing?
Absolutely. There's pros and pros to doing this really deep reflection, not only at Connection Feast, like being the participant, like a participant myself as I create the content and experience, but watching other people experience it. And that is the concept that it gives me a really big pause on who the people are in my life and how I'm interacting with them. It causes me to pause. Am I walking the talk? Because while I'm doing this as a mission, like a deep calling for other people to create deep connection, if there wasn't a deep need within myself, something like this would never succeed or flow the way it is. It has impacted my life dramatically in the sense that I really do take my friendships and my connections not only seriously, but I'd say now that's replaced with intentionally. I think also it has allowed me to realize that sometimes, and I think I've always known this, but even more so than any time, allowing friendships to flow like the water at a Connection Feast for me to be able to interact with friends during certain periods of my life. And sometimes that means for one wave, sometimes that's multiple waves. And I think that's what Connection Feast has really opened for me, especially with the themes and also just the fluidity, that there'll be people coming in and out of my life at all times. And this is not a personal thing. This is actually a really beautiful art within itself, that people come in, they come and like fill this ocean with me. And sometimes they're there riding the waves, and other times they're on a totally different current, or I'm on a totally different current. And we're not necessarily going down the same path. And it's allowed me, I guess, to give myself grace and to really honor the art of allowing other people to create at their own pace as well, their life, to not force things, to really, at my best, be the best person that I can be, ride my waves to the best of my ability, create space within my life that welcomes in the people that I need in my life, and for me to create that space, and then to allow other people to go down their journeys without forcing it. That the amount of just honor that I have for other people and their timing and what's going on in their life at the same time it's mine, I think that's where Connection Feast has really shown me is true. I don't hold on as tightly to things that I thought I needed within friendships. I allow it to kind of evolve and unfold, and we're like riding these waves together. Now, this is a metaphor I just came up with, but it's really working in the sense that it's just allowed me to be softer in the sense of the amount of just quote unquote requirements I used to put on myself and my friendships. And it allows me to call people in and call myself in for different opportunities and needs with different people. You know, like you and I met not even a year ago.
I know. And now here we are, podcasting, dancing. I mean, you're speaking my language. I know we've discussed that you listened to the first couple episodes, but I said in my first episode that one of my beliefs is that people need to do less, ask less, expect less. That somehow we've been led to believe that a few people should be our everything, instead of seeing all the people as providing just a few things that they're able to provide right now and that they enjoy providing. I mean, that's what it sounds like. You're saying, let it loosen. Go out in the world and meet the people that feel right in the moment.
Yeah.
And you never know who's going to walk in.
It's really fascinating. Obviously, you and I work with and talk with so many people about their concepts of friendship and the desires they have for deep connection in their life. And you've obviously outlined so many different types of friendships and frameworks for friendships, all of which I totally align with. And I think one of the painful things I see people experience, a lot of feasters, not all of them, but a lot of them, is really high expectations of other people and the friendships they have in their lives, really high expectations of like reciprocity in friendship, like a tit for tat. It's like they're almost keeping record. And I so relate to that. I so understand that. And then the ironic part about that is that the more we think about it, the more it will happen. You know, the more it will just become the truth. And I think the reality is these high expectations, we're told over and over again about having expectations with all things in life is really a recipe for potential disaster. That's different than values. Having values that are important and living your life true to those values. I just want to call that out. But having expectations of how I think a friend should respond or behave really will set me up to be disappointed. And the focus is wrong, in my opinion, rather than, you know, the focus rather on how I can continue to work on myself and offer being a reflection of what I want to see in the world within my friendships. I recommend, like you do, Alex, that what a beautiful thing it is to have so many different opportunities for connection and people in our lives to support us through riding the waves, that it's not, you know, there's so many different types of people in my life. You asked me kind of about this. I have so many variety of friends. Just for transparency, I'm 40 years old. I know I look super young for those of you who might look at me online, but hey, listen, I have made so many beautiful friendships of a variety of ages after launching Connection Feast. That has been a really beautiful gift. That might seem like a simple thing, But the way that it impacts me in having people in a variety of ages helps me feel not only like I can talk about different parts of my life with these people and get their perspective, but also see what's going on for them. And like, it can't necessarily be tit for tat because we're in totally different areas of our life. The expectations almost have to drop in the sense that if I have a friend who's in their 60s and has 3 children, maybe 2 are in college and one might be living at home for whatever needs. This is something I cannot relate to. If I have high expectations of this friendship that I might have with somebody else who's dating, living alone and single, I will definitely disappoint myself. It helps me have a reality check because they put up boundaries. I can understand their values, but I also get insight into their life, examples of ways of living that I didn't necessarily have visibility into before. And I know that then I can reach out to those people for very specific things.
The episode that's going to air before this, actually, a friend said something to me. I mean, I've thought about around this topic. She said something. She said, when we're younger, we're so used to all the mundane things of life being the same. So you go to college and all of your mundane is the same with somebody else for the most part. Like you go to class, you have to deal with your laundry. And the older we get, when you start making friends in different life situations, their mundane is different. So somebody has kids, somebody that is older and an empty nester, somebody that's, much older, somebody living in a retirement home, somebody who's single, married, like everybody's mundane is different. And there's so much beauty in trying to see that and like experiencing what somebody else is experiencing and understanding what somebody else's life looks like. Because maybe it is what you want, but also maybe it's realizing it's not what you want. It's just information, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You're surrounding yourself with a variety of people living different ways. And all you're saying is, this is what you're choosing to do. Would I want that? I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm happy for you. And we can be friends and enjoy the parts that overlap.
Yeah. And sometimes a friendship lasts a month. Sometimes it lasts years. And I think that's the interesting part. And listen, I'm going to be honest here. If I have a relationship that doesn't work out, I'm talking about a romantic relationship. One of the first things, like let's say it's a 3 to 6 month thing. One of the first things people will say in trying to console me in my experience in the past is like, doesn't matter the length. It's still really valuable. Maybe not in that voice, but it's still really valuable. It's still added so much, because maybe they're thinking I have shame around that it wasn't longer, or that our society or culture has this association that maybe something's wrong with the other person or each person if they can't just push it out to make it last longer. I bring up that example because when your heart is broken, it's frustrating to hear, but they're correct. And I wouldn't necessarily say that personally to somebody unless they were asking, but I do think that this concept is that people are sometimes in our lives for a very short time. And it's sometimes a really beautiful gift for exactly what you said, Alex, which is perhaps they're living a life in a way that you've never seen before. And that it can give you a way to be like, wow, I never knew a life like that was possible, or having mundane activities like that was possible. That's something I want to create or not create. The truth is that people come in our lives and it could be for this little bleeps of moments of time. And sometimes it offers us a gift. And sometimes it offers more the other person a gift. And that's what it is. And I think that it's hard to hear that because we want, and there are those historical friends, I think you name them. There are those historical friends I've had for a long time. I barely see those people, by the way.
Yep.
I barely talk to them, but they're very close to me. Yep. I see Alex much more. And Alex has not been in my life for less than a year now. And Alex and I aren't sitting here looking at a calendar wondering how long our friendship is going to last.
No.
We know that right now we're super supportive of each other, and that we're offering really beautiful glimpses into different ways of creating community and culture and conversation around friendship. And I love that because we do live much different lives. And I think Connection Feast has helped me see the value of having people in my lives for these little blips of time to help kind of push me farther along in my little ocean. Sometimes it's like to help me catch a wave. Sometimes it's so I can push them along the way, and then it's over. And then there's sometimes a little sadness with that. Sometimes if I feel like, did I do something wrong? Was it me?
Yes.
But I just have to look at it like that was a beautiful moment in time that we were able to connect. It's been the truth for me.
And just because that beautiful moment happened, sometimes that is it. It is over. And other times you might reconnect with that person down the line for one reason or another, in that way or a different way. Like, we all just never know. And we want to hold on so tightly and like predict and know. But people just come in and out. We got to like let the wave go? Is that what we were talking about earlier? We got to follow the wave.
Yeah. And I don't even surf or like boogie board yet, but I feel like I can get into it now. I feel like a lot of the stuff, Alex, is very easy to talk about sometimes, and then really, really hard on the other side. And I'm just calling that out because I know a lot of people who are really lonely and isolated. And they are, maybe whether they're coming to Connection Feast, they're listening to your podcast, they're listening to other content, they're quote unquote, I don't love the word trying, so that's why I said quote unquote, but they're putting themselves out there, but they still feel this loneliness and isolation. And so something like this, a conversation, could almost be like an eye roll for them. Like, sure, that's the case, but all I want is one or two really consistent friends. And the truth of that is, your first, I think, please jump in here. I think the beauty of like Connection Feast, but also so much of the content you put out and so much of the content of friendship, it helps us recognize how we can be good friends to other people, what friendship means, but pausing and be like, how good of a friend am I being to myself?
Yeah.
And if I were to have two seats next to me and I was listening to myself talk about some of these challenges, and there's an older version of myself talking to me in 10, 15 years, trying to console me on something I could have considered in this, how good of a friend would that older version of myself be to my current self and guide me in regarding to expectations of friendships? Like, how good of a friend am I being to myself first? That's a really hard one because I see so many people so hard on themselves, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, from what I have seen, I was at a pretty low. My low was low, but I was really young. So I wasn't having these kind of conversations with myself. I just did it and started finding the smallest slivers that would add up to get me towards what I need. And I think what I see when I talk to people is they have those high expectations. They want friends to show up for them in these like big, all-encompassing ways. So when they leave an interaction, they're so focused on what didn't happen that would have gotten them to that expectation instead of being focused on what did happen. And getting to those bigger, all-encompassing relationships, like, it requires you to build. You have to add up interaction over interaction. You need evidence, is what I call it. And you're not going to get the evidence in one go around.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I've seen this with people who do come to Feast relatively consistently, or just people who are making an active investment in how they're spending their time. I saw something, of course, some, viral Instagram thing, and it's very simple. We all know this, but it's like, basically it was like someone saying, I want change in my life. And then there was this thing handed to them, which is, here, change happening from small habits every day.
Mm-hmm.
And the person was like, no, I don't want that. I want a dramatic turnaround overnight. And don't we all? And doesn't the media,
don't we all?
It doesn't the movies want to show this friendship that's blossoming from two people that should not necessarily be friends? And then somehow the friendship happens over time because of some shared experience. And it all happens in 2 hours. And we think to ourselves, why can't I just have that with somebody at work or somebody I bump into? Because we all know it's the movies. And the truth of the matter is, it is literally day by day, little habits, consistency, these things that we do in our lives to make us better, and the learning and sharing that and building on that, like you're saying. It's really where I've seen people thrive in friendship the most.
And I do think that people sometimes can go like really deep in one area. Like a counseling group is a great example of this. You share in a group program or in a mentorship program or in a mastermind, like you share really deep, vulnerable things, but you're only doing it in one area of your life. People then get caught up, I think, in that we're so close. I'm telling them my hardest moments. It's like, but only in one area. The reason your longest, oldest, closest friends, you can go to them for close to anything, is because over time, you've gone deep in 50 areas. It's the same repetition. And I think even if you don't go the deepest, even if you just meet a friend, a casual friend at work, whatever, like if you work with that same person for 10 years, over time, you're probably going to start telling each other deeper things. Like whether you go deep first or you go wide first, it's the same thing. It all just slowly builds over time. It can't happen overnight. Have you read, you probably have because I know you're a self-improvement junkie like I am, but maybe you haven't, Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Did you read it and think about friendship when you read it? Because when I read it, all I thought about was friendship.
I don't know why flossing actually is like the thing that stuck out.
So he talks about in one part of the book how somebody decided they were going to be the person that worked out. His thing is like to start, you have to decide you are that person. You have to choose. So as far as the friendship stuff goes, like you have to decide you are a person who meets people and makes friends. And then James Clear says, start with the easiest thing, like the thing you cannot fail at. So this person would go to the gym every day and was allowed to walk in, spend 5 minutes in the gym and walk out. Didn't even have to work out, just had to go to the gym. Now, it's pretty hard to not convince yourself to keep that promise to yourself. You don't even have to work out. You just have to go in there. And that over time, then, it's like, well, I'm going to be the person that works out 5 minutes every day. I'm going to be the person that works out 10 minutes every day. So make it so easy you can't fail. And I think about that with friendship, like deciding you are the person who makes and maintains friends. And then deciding that like a person that makes and maintains friends texts one person a month and you have to do it. And then maybe after you've done that for a few months, you text a person a week. You propose one meetup a week. You go to one group connection feast a month, whatever it is. But starting so small and like just deciding you're that person is the beginning of building those webs with the people and building closer friendships.
Yeah, I do remember those stories within that Atomic Habits.
I'm not very good at habits. So if you blacked it out because you're not good at habits either, don't worry. I'm with you.
I'm actually good at some habits for sure. I am a fitness person and I go to the gym consistently. So that example that he gave really does sit with me. What's challenging with that, I will counter and say what's challenging with something like that is that a gym is static. A gym and lifestyle like that has theoretically, one person involvement. The next step, yes, you go to the gym for 5 minutes. Of course, you're going to stay longer. You might end up being there 2 hours and you're not really working out, but at least you're going. You're now a gym person. And so it doesn't require another person, but it does demonstrate. And I think this is the point of what that book brings up. And that example specifically is, like you're saying, once you prove that to yourself, what other doors can I open within that? The gym doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah.
The people at the gym don't owe us anything. And my body's certainly not going to change even if I just go for 5 minutes. I will change a little bit. It's really the mindset there. And the crazy part about that example, and I don't remember if he stated this or not, mindset changes so much about how we act,
Yep.
how our body feels, and how our body responds. So in that example, while I think Alex, we both understand that's like a static thing and I can't control how another person reacts to me. If I text you and you don't respond, never do that, by the way. But if I texted Alex, she didn't respond ever. I can't control that, but I know that I reached out and I'm the type of person that says what I will do, right? On the flip side, when another person is involved, it's not like I can say, hey, I'm going to be a friendship magnet. And in order for me to demonstrate to the self, I'm going to have a dinner party once a week and I'm going to invite 10 people and I'm going to have 10 new people come once a week. Can you promise me that you'll come once a month to my dinner parties, Alex? That is a lot of pressure for somebody else. That is a lot of expectation on somebody else. Also, once a week, don't do that's a lot. But I think when a person becomes an involvement, that I can understand why, and I'm pushing back and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where's a habit like that, or even a mindset, it will definitely change how people interact and how you feel about yourself, but it won't necessarily instantaneously change how somebody else responds. They're not on board with you on that habit change.
No, but I think it's about putting yourself in that place. You're deciding you're going to host one dinner party a month. You are putting yourself out there as like open to meeting new people. You're putting yourself in a place where you are interacting in a way you weren't before. This is assuming somebody was choosing not to go to big social things. You're like creating that space. You're adding to your life, the opportunities. And I think that's what I'm getting at is I think that so much of friendship and community is putting yourself in the places where you can be around the right people.
Oh, yes.
And that
Absolutely.
doing that repeatedly over time, I mean, I want to say you're bound. If you're out there and you're doing this and you are doing that repeatedly and not meeting someone, call Alex and I because we'd love to chat with you. Because I think that you are bound at a certain point to meet somebody that is interesting. And especially if it's somewhere where the same people are frequenting, you're going to see the same people and start to say hi to them when you walk in the door and start to chat and start to say, what happened in the last month? How was that trip? And that's all like building slowly.
Yes, you are correct. And I love that example in saying that like you can have something static, quote unquote, and still create relationships and relationship practice and friendship practice and connection practice at these types of new habits that one creates. I'm sure most of the listeners know about countless studies that demonstrate that you are so greatly impacted by the people around you. It's actually quite scary.
That's like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yeah.
You're more likely to be unhealthy and living an unhealthy lifestyle if you're around other people who are living an unhealthy lifestyle. But the crazy thing is you might not even be aware that it's unhealthy. That's because it's so important to be surrounding yourself around activities and doing things consistently enough that are in alignment with the values you want to live. And naturally over time, I agree with you, Alex, you'll start to surround yourself around more of those types of people and pausing and being like, those people don't have to be coming over playing at your house every night or coming over or you're talking to them every day. The actual influence of having those people in your life consistently will show you and impact your life. And then over time, I totally agree, those relationships start to deepen. And then one day, let's grab a tea, let's grab a coffee, let's go on a walk. And those friendships, because you realize, oh, wow, like we're already so deeply connected. The 5 people surround thing, there's controversy around that. I don't even know if it's necessarily the 5. Alex and I certainly have many 5s, lots of different circles around us.
Yeah, I have many 5s.
Many 5s. And the truth is like, I am greatly impacted by the people in my life. I'm super inspired by Alex, for example.
Oh, I'm inspired by
I'm super
you.
inspired by podcasts. It's going to impact me in a way where it's like, she can do it. I know I can too. And that might seem simple to some people, but if we don't see that represented within people kind of directly in our lives, it's not like Alex has to coach me. It has a direct impact on what I think I can accomplish. So like the habits, what I like about your example is you then become a gym person, but then you also become like a curious person about people. Like if you like cooking, you become curious about your own lifestyle and your own habits. I will put an example right now of something I've been intimidated to do. I'm a very athletic person, a very active person, but I'm a very independent sport person. And I've never really been part of group sports.
Mm.
And I have in the past felt very intimidated about how to get involved in group sports and have put it off for a long time. This is weird for me because I think I would love this.
I think you would love it too.
Yeah, I had to ask my friend Naomi, who's a co-host Connection Feast. She's 26. She told me my eyeliner was outdated. She also tells me all these fashion things I'm on. This is the benefit of having some younger friends sometimes. But she's very involved in lots of team sports. And I want to be the type of person that makes a habit of being part of, like, I want to be a team sports person. Like, I want to be a volleyball player, or I have to pick which one. And that's where I get a little stuck. But the cool thing is, I like about a group sport and having that concept change in my mind and having that new habit is that I'm often feeling like a lone wolf in what I'm creating. I think it would be cool to have a goal with people, even if it is figuratively, like we're aiming for a goal or getting a point together. And we can celebrate that win together. And it's kind of like what Connection Feast does, or like having a shared goal together and creating that is going to create this type of, bond and naturally help create a sense of celebratory or disappointment that you can then connect with. I haven't had that kind of connection because in my mind, I haven't been a team sports person yet.
I mean, I was in team sports for like a decade. Yeah. I was on the crew team. That is an ultimate team sport.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The share of the win and the hard work, that's definitely a connector for people. There's no doubt about it. And that's so great as an adult to want to put yourself in that situation.
And somehow I have had a block. And I'm bringing this up because Alex and I might talk about this kind of stuff a lot, but like, doesn't mean we don't have our own struggles or opportunities, rather. I don't know why I've just never thought of myself as that type of person. I actually think it has something to do with this thing I associate with like pressure on my time. And I've always noticed this is like something to do with time that I get a little angsty about time feeling controlled. And I want to be the type of person that plays group sports. And I want to be the type of person that can make connections through team sports and like achieve a goal with people that is not about work, that's fun and playful. And it's a hurdle. And now I have to change my mindset on that because I think it will open up a lot of really beautiful friendships for me.
And I think one of my favorite things about group sports is that frequency piece, like deciding that you're a group sports person. Like, it is a constraint on your time because now other people are depending on you to be at the game, be at practice, be a part of it. You can't be quite as free, but that's also like a new habit, a new identity. You are part of the collective. You're working towards that collective goal. I think that's a really beautiful, like, new type of connection, maybe that you haven't had.
Yeah. I was on the drill team in high school. What is that movie where I know somebody's listening. Okay, listen, I'm the worst. It's going to come to me. Bring It On, I think. It's where they compete.
Yeah.
Okay. It was exactly like that movie. It was extremely intense. We practiced at 6 a.m. every day. I was captain my senior year. That was a collaborative sport. We competed. Am I still friends with those people from high school? No, not really. But it did at the time create a lot of discipline and connection for me that I have not really recreated. I would really love to do that. So yeah, I think what's really helpful in a lot of these kind of conversations is to be like, even people like us, we have our own kind of cool opportunities we're exploring within how to deepen our own friendships. Like, that's one of mine.
Oh my gosh, I have, yes, so many. It never ends. I mean, you could look at someone, us, right? We talk about this on the internet and think everything is great and things are good. I don't feel lonely to the point of, feeling rock bottom, nowhere near. But this never ends. Actually, I was thinking recently, I think the reason I love talking about friendship so much is because every time I think I know a good amount about friendship, I am utterly humbled by these relationships. Some new dynamic appears, some friendship change happens, people move away and I'm grieving. Somebody I depended on in one area is moving on. Like maybe they were a business friend and now they're going to shut down their business. I don't know. It never ends. It never ends. There's always new things. And I don't even know what my current one is. I think my current one is I used to have much better habits. I used to be better about checking in and scheduling time. And because I've been working so much to launch this podcast and finish the book, I have totally let that slip. I have not been anywhere near as good. So it feels silly to be talking about it on the internet when I know I'm not doing as great of a job as I want to be in that. But I actually, meeting new friends and going to events like Connection Feast was actually something that about a year ago was pretty high on my list. Like meeting someone like you that I had just met on the internet was something I hadn't done in a while. I had met friends through work and I had like good friends from college that still lived in the area and I had friends from high school. But it had been a while since I had met someone just kind of in the circumstances of life and actually pursued being friends. So our friendship is a direct result of actually something that a year ago was on my to work on list.
Oh, I feel so honored.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. You can find Alex over on Instagram. Her handle is @ConnectionFeast. Be sure to check out her events if you're local to Seattle or the virtual ones. Both are great. And don't worry, she will be back. We'll air the second half of this marathon conversation her and I had in just a few weeks. And with that, we'll have a new episode for you next week. I gotta run. My house is full of all my people. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to this episode of Friendship IRL. I am so honored to have these conversations with you, but don't let the chat die here. Send me a voice message. I created a special website just to chat with you. You can find it at alex.chat. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle @itsAlexAlexander, or go ahead and leave a review wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. Now, if you want to take this conversation a step further, send this episode to a friend. Tell them you found it interesting and use what we just talked about as a conversation starter the next time you and your friend hang out. No need for a teary goodbye. I'll be back with a new episode next week.